I don't want French fried potatoes, red ripe tomatoes. I'm never satisfied. I want the frim fram sauce with the awesome fay with shafafa on the side. I don't want pork chops and bacon. That won't awaken my appetite inside. I want the frim fram sauce with the awesome fay with shafafa on the side. Hello, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Renee Taylor, and I am a diet tramp. That is someone who eats around. My obsession with food has caused me to behave in certain ways. If a doctor's nurse comes out and asks me to step on the scale, I say, I don't do weight. If the doctor asks me, especially if he's chubby, to please weigh myself, I say, you first. But if the doctor gets very angry, I say, okay, but why should I weigh myself here? I've had a big meal. I have my clothes on. I weighed this morning when I got out of the shower, and I was naked, and that is my true weight, 102. There's another rule that I live by. If I see something in a store that I like, I don't care what size it is, I try it on. The sales girl will say to me, Miss, that's a 4. You're not a 4. I say, oh, yes, I am, especially if it's a knit. I'm a 4. In any event, during my lifetime, I have tried every diet in the civilized world. You name it, I was on. First, there was Dr. Robert Lynn's Last Chance diet. It was very effective, but I got off it because some of Dr. Lynn's patients died. And then there was Dr. Stuart Berger's Southampton diet. It also was very effective, but I got off it when Dr. Berger put on 150 pounds and killed himself. Then, of course, there was Dr. Herman Tarnover's famous Scarsdale diet. None of Dr. Tarnover's patients died, and he didn't commit suicide, but his girlfriend caught him stooping someone else and shot him. Actually, I don't think she was jealous. She just wanted to get off his lousy diet. In the story of my ongoing battle to achieve the perfect figure begins with my mother, Frida Wexler, who had a deep yearning to be a star of the silver screen. She was always posing as though Cecil B. DeMille was passing by. When I was born, my mother had my horoscope done by her favorite gypsy psychic, Gertie Schwartz. My mother was thrilled because, according to Mrs. Schwartz, I was the one destined to be the giant international movie superstar. So my mother named me after her favorite movie star of the silent screen, Renee Adoree. She said that I was a dead ringer for her. When I was 4, my mother was sure that the prophecy of my superstardom was coming true. I came in third at the Daily News Chubby Child Contest. My mother had met my father, Charlie Wexler, at a cousin's birthday party. He'd just come back from Hollywood, where he had gone to hit it big. He was a gambler, and besides stud poker, hitting it big from get-rich-quick schemes really pretty much ruled his life. In this case, he was going to make a killing playing cowboys in the rash of silent movie westerns. Even though he couldn't act, he had never been on a horse and had no idea how to hold a gun. Notice where the weapon is pointing. He acted out for my mother how he died when Tom Mix shot him, and on their first date, he took her to see the movie. He was in a wide shot of a battle scene. Coming out from behind the rock, underneath the smoke, that's my father. So you can see I come from a strong theatrical tradition. My mother told me, all right, when I saw the movie, I was disappointed in his death scene. But I fell in love and married him because whenever we took a picture together, we looked exactly like John Gilbert and Greta Garbo in The Grand Illusion. When I was 5, my brother was born. My mother named him Bernard because she thought he looked a lot like the beautiful St. Bernard puppy who saved a Mountie's life in the snow. In this case, there was a resemblance. When I was 6, my father, to skip out on back rent, moved my mother, me, and my baby brother to Florida in the middle of the night on the back of a truck. My mother actually was thrilled. If she couldn't move to Hollywood, Miami Beach in the 1940s was the next best thing on the sunshine, glamour, and fitness scale, and she became an obsessive vegetarian there. Consequently, so did we all. My mother's brother had been shot in a bar in the groin and died. And my mother told me, Renee, I want you and your brother to be so healthy. If anyone ever shoots you in the groin, you'll live. She had only a few hours sleep every night. She was up cutting out the diets of movie stars from movie magazines and pasting them all over the house. And she did exercises, personally prescribed in Photoplay magazine by Sylvia of Hollywood, the beauty culturist to the stars. And my mother was very serious about the benefits of proper food combining. She'd say, when you combine apples and almonds, you get vitamin C with your calcium. And when you combine tuna fish and celery, you get strengthened enzymes. And my father would say, you know what you get when you combine baked beans and pineapple juice? Hawaiian music. Actually, our family weight control plan was a very balanced one that my father came up with. We all went on the Charlie Wexler feast or fast diet. Those were the days of the World War II Bond tours, and a lot of Hollywood celebrities came from California to appear in them. I sold $25 bonds door to door, and with each sale came 2 tickets to the Celebrity Victory Show, one for the bond buyer and one for the seller. And I sold enough to take my whole family. We saw Joan Crawford perform. She was a huge star at the time, and afterwards we went backstage to get her autograph. When I met Joan Crawford, I was in such awe of her. I couldn't even speak. But my mother went right up to Miss Crawford and said, Joan, Frida, I'm a friend of Sylvia Photoplay magazine. I hear you order 2 slices of whole wheat raisin bread in the MGM commissary and you eat them one at a time because Sylvia says you need the iron from the raisins. And that's true. But your body also needs whole wheat bread to keep you constipation free. I was so embarrassed. I thought Miss Crawford was going to throw us out of the dressing room. But she said, "How did you know?" "It's a gift, Joan. Here's my address. Call me the next time your acting is off. It's just a cry for help from your bowels." I was put on my first diet when I was 11. I'd been sent home from school because the teacher said I couldn't go 5 minutes without a bagel in my mouth. I was a size 18. My mother was so concerned, she wrote to Sylvia of Photoplay for advice. And Sylvia wrote back, "Frida, I understand you're a vegetarian, but I have come across a diet you should try for your daughter. Lou Costello used it to shed 20 pounds for the latest Abbott and Costello movie." So I was put on Lou Costello's Meet the Mummy diet. And very soon, I began to look like Lou Costello. My mother was crestfallen when it didn't work. She dragged me to diet doctors, but nothing worked because whatever diet I was on, I cheated. And my whole childhood I spent looking like a large sugar cube. And then I fell madly in love, but it wasn't a boy who made me finally lose weight. It was the first time in South Beach Elementary School I walked out on stage as the fairy princess in Johnny Appleseed. "Come sprite and elf and gnome, draw near, your fairy friend is sleeping." And I fell madly in love with applause. And all through the song, my mother kept yelling from different parts of the theater, "Bravo! Bravo! Bravo!" When I entered high school, my mother said I'd have to be thinner if I wanted to star in the plays. And that's when I too became obsessed with the diets. I tried all the ones popular at the time, including the favorite of the resident glamour-puss in our family, Aunt Mitzi. And I went on her whitefish and papaya diet. By the middle of my junior year, I was riding high. I had gone from a size 18 to a 12, and I got my first starring role, the ingenue, in The Mad Woman of Chaillot. I hate ugliness. I hate meanness. I love beauty. I adore kindness. And my mother now tried to disguise her voice with foreign accents. "Bravo! Bruvo! Brivo!" I was a big hit at the school. And then my whole life at Miami Beach fell apart. Daddy had once again lost everything that we had gambling, so we once again had to pile all our belongings in his truck in the middle of the night and drive off, this time to New York. We got an apartment in Jamaica, Queens, and as a teenager, I had no sense of myself. So I found my female role in the movies. Betty Grable was my role model, Lana Turner, Hedy Lamarr, but most of all, I love Rita Hayworth in all her movies, especially opposite Glenn Ford in Gilda. And to look like our favorite stars, I and many other girls at the time shaved our eyebrows so we could pencil them in. And I also had electrolysis done to have a widow's peak just like Rita Hayworth. My mother thought I looked like the ideal woman. Personally, I think I looked like a horse's ass. At 16, I entered the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. A lot of famous show business people sent their children to the academy, and because I was the daughter of nobodies, I played their maids. I had a girlfriend from the academy who was very stuck up. Her father was a big Broadway investor. On several occasions, I had dinner with my stuck up friend and her father at their Fifth Avenue penthouse. And after dinner, I watched him eat candy corn. First, he ate the tip, and then he bit off the end part. And then, last, he put the middle orange part in his mouth. One night, I was on my way to the Academy School dance, and I wore a red satin dress with long black velvet gloves. And my girlfriend asked me to keep her father company in the library while she got ready. And as I entered the library, I remember I decided to become Rita Hayworth for the first time. "Hi, Mr. Marshall," I said. "Hello, Renee. New dress?" "Yes, it's kind of sexy, no?" Now that you mention it, it is sort of. "May I play the phonograph, Mr. Marshall?" I put on my favorite Rita Hayworth song from Gilder and sang and danced with it around the room. "Put the blame on Mame, boys. Put the blame on Mame." He said, "Gee, you're a natural sex symbol." His eyes were glazed. "What are you thinking about, Mr. Marshall?" I knew what he was thinking about. It was exciting doing things like repartee with him, like Rita Hayworth would have done. He said, "I was thinking, if only I was 20 years younger." And he took my face in his hands, and he kissed me. There was a piece of candy corn in his mouth, and he pushed it into mine. I wondered if anybody had ever done that to Rita Hayworth. And then he said, "If we were alone in the house, you know what I'd do? I'd carry you up to my bedroom." I didn't ask him, "And then what would you do?" 'Cause I was busy wondering what the hell I was supposed to do with the candy in my mouth. I didn't know if I was supposed to push it back in his mouth or what. And then he said, "Maybe we could get together again. How'd you like me to get you an apartment?" I got so scared because I realized I was in over my head. I said, "Oh, I'd love it. But I have to ask my father. He works for the FBI." At the academy, I studied speech, makeup, dance, fencing, and my mother came to school to hear the guest speaker, Dame Judith Anderson, speak. And she talked about acting. And afterward, my mother dragged me to Dame Judith's dressing room. My mother said, "Dame Frida, maybe you could do something for my daughter Renee. If you could give her a push on her way up, maybe someday she'll give you a push when you're on your way down." One of the boys I dated from the academy, Byron, was very handsome and dressed impeccably. He was a Philadelphia mainliner. He liked to take me to his family's estate, and with my Zoftic figure and my outspokenness, I was a real shock for his family, who were piss elegant and good friends with another mainline family, Grace Kelly's. And when I met her, my first words to her were, "How did you get to be so thin?" She gave me the Grace Kelly yogurt diet. When she got married years later to Prince Rainier of Monaco, I sent her a wedding gift, a top-of-the-line home yogurt maker. She wrote me back a note on royal stationery. It says, "Dear Renee, I was so delighted to receive your thoughtful wedding present. Please stop by the palace for tea and yogurt if you're ever in the neighborhood. Sincerely, Grace." I was very infatuated with Byron and his blue-blooded lifestyle. I would tell my parents I was staying in the city with an actress friend, but I'd be with Byron in his East Side triplex. And on Halloween, we were going to go to a society ball at the Pierre Hotel. I thought the sexiest dress star in the movies then was Lana Turner in The Postman Always Rings Twice. So for my costume, I rented the outfit that she wore in that movie. And I hid it in the back of the closet to surprise Byron. But when I went there early from an audition, I was very disappointed because Byron had already found it, and he was also wearing it. And he looked so much better in it than me. The blue-blooded romance was over. I got depressed, and I put on a lot of weight. And at the Academy, I excelled as a heavy-set dowager, Mrs. Pampanelli in The Torchbearers. I was the talk of the school. It was the end of the year, so I went to the office of Mrs. Geitzel to be evaluated. She was the dean. "Did you like my performance, Mrs. Geitzel?" She said, "Yes, but I'm so sorry. We shan't accept you back next term. The school is focusing on girls who will be playing romantic leads." I was stunned. "I heard you said the same thing to Katharine Hepburn. You were wrong about her, and you're just as wrong about me." And I ran out of her office sobbing, and I began living to prove her wrong. I would become a famous thin actress. I would live on sugar-free gummy bears and club soda. And then I'd do what I thought the most important thing that a young actress would do. I would have my picture taken by Bruno of Hollywood. I was so proud of how thin I'd got and how Bruno made me look. I knew I'd get a lot of work from it. So I sent out blotters with my picture on them and pencils with my phone numbers to all the talent agencies in the city. And I put stickers in nearby phone booths and bars. And I was bombarded by calls from perverts. I was with a bunch of other actresses in the waiting room of one of the biggest casting agents in New York, Max Richards. He pointed to me. "You're what they're looking for. How'd you like to be in a scene in a Columbia Pictures movie, the Eddie Duchin story, with Tyrone Power?" Are you kidding? I would give anything. "Have you got a gown?" "Dozens," I lied. "Be at the Waldorf Astoria Ballroom tomorrow at 6 a.m. I borrowed Aunt Mitzi's Mother of the Bride gown. And now I was going to be in a movie with Tyrone Power. I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. I was writing my Academy Award acceptance speech. I didn't eat dinner and breakfast so that I would fit in the gown and look great. And then when I got to the Waldorf Ballroom, there were hundreds of young actresses who had borrowed their aunt's Mother of the Bride gown. "Sit anywhere," the assistant director yelled. And Tyrone was at a piano on the nightclub floor. I grabbed a seat as close to him as possible. I wanted to yell, "Oh, I love you." And then I noticed sitting close to Tyrone, all blonde, cool, and gentile, was Kim Novak. Oh, God, why did she have to be in my movie? I checked out what she was eating for breakfast. Oh, life is so unfair. The director yelled, all right, people, when Eddie Duchin ends his number, all of you jump up in a standing ovation." I would be noticed in the huge crowd of actors because I would yell encore with such passion. The camera would dwell on my face, and Tyrone would see me in the rushes and say, "Drop the cool, Gentile. The money is on this hot Jewish tomato." I was groggy from lack of sleep and food. I dozed off for 1 second. I dreamt about hash brown potatoes shaped like an Oscar statuette. And then I heard the assistant director yell, "How dare you sleep through a Tyrone Power scene? Get out. You're through at Columbia Picture Studios." I didn't get out of bed for a month. And then I counted. There were 8 studios left that I hadn't been fired from. So I went back into the fray. Max Ridgewood locked the door when he saw me coming, and he wouldn't let me in his office again. But I got extra work through a lot of other agents, and I got to meet a lot of famous stars. I rode the Central Park Carousel in a big crowd scene in Affair to Remember. It starred Cary Grant. I sat next to him at lunch, and I said, "You're Cary Grant." He said, "I know." Then I watched him eat his lunch. I called my mother. I said, "You told me Cary Grant lunched only on caviar." My mother said, "Well, to a Gentile Hebrew nationalist, caviar." Just doing extra parts in crowd scenes, dressed like everyone else, began to be depressing. I started to worry that my career would be just like my father's, destined to be the one under the smoke behind the rock in a wide shot. But then my movie career took off. I got an extra part in the low-budget film Cop Hater with my face on camera in a medium shot, dressed like a hooker. And then I got an extra part in a low-budget film, The Mugger, where I got to move in a full-body shot, dressed as a hooker. And then I got an extra part in a low-budget film, Praise God, Street of Sinners, and I got to speak. Who you calling a hooker? I felt I was now a movie actress. All I needed for the next step on my road to stardom was a great part. For a year, I'd been trying to get in to see a famous New York Broadway agent, Abe Newborn. I show up at lunchtime. I knew he had it delivered from the stage deli, but when he'd hear my name, Renee Wexler, through his open office door, I'd see his hand with a diamond pinky ring waving me away. One day, I told his secretary, who at the time was Sue Mengers, "I am not moving until he comes out." "Oh, what is it?" Abe Newborn asked, like he was doing me a favor just talking to me. "The lead in Tennessee Williams' Baby Doll. Elia Kazan is seeing young voluptuous girls. I'll learn a southern accent. Just get me an interview." "Okay, kid, I'm going to stick my neck out for you." He said it without even looking up from his Broadway agent's deli lunch. "But listen, kid," he said between burps, "we better change your name from Wexler to an authentic old Southern one." I took out a library book, Who's Who in the South, and Abe found the name General Zachary Taylor. And so Renee Taylor, the authentic Southern belle, was born. I took speech lessons for a week. I was flabbergasted to meet Tennessee Williams and Elia Kazan. I began my audition scene. "Will I tell them I'll tell them that you and I was sitting on the porch on the swing, and we were swinging back and forth, back and forth. You didn't go out, and you was awfully surprised when the syndicate fire broke out. Tennessee Williams interrupted me. Excuse me, Miss Taylor, what part of New York are you from? So much for my southern accent. But I kept the name Taylor because it had gotten me as far as meeting authentic Hollywood people. There was no telling where I could go from there. And then one day, I went to a cattle call agent for a play, and the stage manager asked me, "What part are you here for?" My agent said the part where my name goes up over the title. I just said that because actually I didn't have an agent. Uh, since I lost the baby doll job, Abe Newborn had been waving me away again with his pinky ring, and they handed me the script. It was a play called The Rehearsal, written in 1671. I couldn't make head or tails out of it. It had lines in it like, "What shouts triumphant that?" I decided that's how I would read it, like I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I mean, what worse could happen to me than what happened when I did know what I was doing? So I was very relaxed. And after I read only one scene, they ran up on stage and a woman said, "The part is yours. Are you Equity?" I said, "Absolutely." Is this off Broadway or off Broadway? She said, "It's on Broadway." On Broadway? It's on Broadway? I couldn't believe it. I was 19 and I had a starring role in a Broadway play. But by opening night, I had to do something drastic to be thin. I was at my wits' end about how to accomplish it. And then I read in a trashy magazine in the beauty parlor about a nun in Sicily who was on a spiritual diet that came to her in a vision of the Virgin Mary. So I immediately got on the Sicilian nun's spiritual air diet. And after about 10 days of no food or water, I did indeed begin to have visions of the Virgin Mary. I knew it was time to get off the Sicilian nun's air diet. And opening night, I was a size 8. And at the party at Sardi's restaurant, the play's press agent read the reviews. They were all terrible, except the Daily News said about me, Renee Taylor, a blonde hoyden, came on stage like she was shot out of a cannon. We would like to see her do something like Born Yesterday, She's Just the Type. The play closed the same night that it opened. But it didn't matter to me, because to be praised by the paper with an 8 million circulation, that was ecstasy. All those people would read and talk about me. The front page headline was about a huge fire in New Jersey. Even those left homeless by the tragedy would read about my triumph. I imagined a woman standing in the rubble of her home with her husband and her 3 children in charred clothing and saying, "When a girl with such talent is singled out, there has to be a God." I was more determined than ever to keep the weight off and make it big. And then I read an article in the New York Times. A lot of successful actors talked about Lee Strasberg, the head of the Actors Studio, But for me to get into his class, I figured I really have to impress him with my audition scene. So I did a scene in scanty underwear. When I was finished, Lee said to me, your problem, young lady, is inhibitions. You don't have any. He must have seen something in me because he took me in as a student, and into his class came some of the most exciting young actors starting their careers. I got to interact with Steve McQueen, Jane Fonda, James Dean, and big Hollywood stars also came to Lee's class. I met Jennifer Jones and Myrna Loy, and even Marlon Brando showed up. I sat down next to him and I said, "Are you going to leave me alone?" He said, "I'm not doing anything." I said, "I know, why not?" But my favorite movie star who came to Lee's classes will always be Marilyn Monroe. I never saw skin like hers, like a peach and translucent. How did you get skin like that? I asked her one day in the ladies' room. She had just done a scene in class and she was so nervous. Her delicate skin had broken out in a rash and she was putting calamine lotion on it. And her body was dripping with perspiration. I don't think she was aware, but she was so scared she had wet her dress, and she was wearing beige silk jersey that just stuck to her, and you could see every inch of fat all over her body outlined. She never wore panties, and that's what made her so beautiful. It She was on a cover that week when she was in the ladies' room of Life magazine biting a diamond earring. But she didn't consider herself a success in movies because she wasn't appreciated as an actress. But her work in class was vulnerable and personal. I marveled at her risk taking in front of young actors like me who, as part of the class, would dare to criticize her work. She was so serious about participating, she called my friend Phil Roth, who was starting out like me too, to ask him if he'd act in a scene with her. "Hello, Phil, this is Marilyn," she said, and then to identify herself. "You know, Marilyn from class?" Now Renee Wexler was asking Marilyn, the epitome of glamour, "How'd you get skinned like that?" She laughed. "Well, today before I came, I took a hot bath for 3 hours." "Uh-huh." "But before I got in the tub, I rubbed Vaseline all over my body." "Uh-huh." "That's it." "Uh-huh." This is embarrassing to ask you, Marilyn, but do you think I look like I could be your sister? Somebody says I do. Somebody from class? No, my mother. In this picture. Oh, I mean, I myself don't see the resemblance, but if I lost weight and shaved my nose and painted my eyebrows into a wing like you and lightened my hair, would I look like you? Sure, anybody could look like me. Oh, what a kind thing to say, Marilyn. She said, "For all I know, you might be my sister. I don't know who my father is, and my mother's in an institution." "Well," I said, "that lets me out. My mother and father are on the loose." "But tell me, Marilyn, what diet are you on?" I was hoping to learn her beauty secret. She said, "I eat grapes, lots of grapes. I have a sweet tooth, and grapes satisfy my craving." And for variety, I have some of them frozen. Aha. Thanks. So for the next few weeks, all I ate was grapes, red, green, black, frozen, pits, stems and all, hoping to look like her. But I just kept sliding in the water under the tub. In Lee's class, I would perform as many scenes as possible. He would criticize my work very severely. I would nod my head like I understood, but I'd say to myself, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And then one day, I had this thought. How can he be so wrong about me and be so wrong about everything he says to Steve McQueen and Jane Fonda and Marlon Brando? A light bulb went off. From then on, I hung on his every word. I began to develop an acting technique, and I remained his student 3 times a week for 8 years. Meanwhile, I supported myself working in Macy's basement. Actually, it was in the sub-basement, demonstrating a dress that the store thought was a hot item, but I thought it was the ugliest thing I ever saw. It was a cotton stretch tube with rayon, and that was to make it shine. And the color was called spun gold, but it really was the color of mucus. It sold for $9.98, and I was working on commission. I didn't know how the hell I could get anyone to watch me demonstrate it, more or less buy it, but it had this wide floppy neck. You could pull it in all directions, and I decided to use it as an opportunity to perform and have some fun. So I put it on and pretended to be British. Step right up, ladies. It's the fashion sheath smock all of London is raving about. Brought to you today by me, Lady Fonsberg of Nottingham. Fold the collar once, and you have your bib effect. Twice, your boat neckline. Thrice, your Peter Pan collar. Flip it over your head, and you have your chic Rasputin monk's hood. Your friends will proclaim, oh, it looks so different, but she's wearing the same old schmata again. And here's the kicker. Because of its stunning gold color, no one can tell if you got slobberingly sloshed and spilled on yourself applesauce, lemon juice, canola oil, melted provolone spaghetti al burro, chicken a la king, filet of sole amandine, or bird droppings. I drew crowds and people were laughing but buying it. And my pitch was so successful, it made me think I should use more theatrical methods to draw attention to myself as an actress. As I passed Woolworth's pet counter, I had a brainstorm. Turtles. I would paint my phone number and paste a tiny picture on the backs of them. And then I'd give the turtle and pet food to agents and producers. They'd feed their turtles every day, and they'd think of me and call me for parts. I got one promising result. A man with a thick Italian accent called me. Senorina Taylor, I am produce a movie in New York. I am stay at Regency Hotel. Come see me. I tell you good part I have in my movie for you. I was so excited I ran there. Come in, the Italian producer said. He was gray-haired and very old. I am just sit down to have my lunch. I love your face, Senorina Taylor, since I see it on a baby turtle. It burned a big hole inside me. And he leapt from the table and grabbed my ass. I hit him over the head with my pocketbook. He slumped into a chair and said, I eat my aphrodisiac lunch, and I am hard like scungili shells. And now you make me soft like mushroom polenta. As I rushed out the door, I peeked at the Italian producer's aphrodisiac lunch. My career was at a standstill. I moved out of my parents' house and into a seedy hotel in Hell's Kitchen. And to make ends meet, there wasn't a nightclub or a restaurant that I didn't work at. Toots Shor's, the Latin Quarter, the Copacabana. Finally, I landed a job as a performer, singing blues songs in an after-hours strip club near the Brooklyn waterfront. The manager had me sing an old stripper's lament, and he told me it had been written in the 1920s and I should sing it very sexy and sincerely. But the words were so ridiculous, I couldn't do it straight. I gotta keep on stripping and keep my zipper zipping. I can't be sweet if I wanna eat. I gotta get hot. I gotta pull that zipper, even on Yom Kippur. The boss wanted to fire me, but in the audience was a mafioso who loved it. So my boss decided to love it too. A week later, my mafioso fan was on the front page of the Daily News. Lucky, just before dinner that night, the mafioso fan had recommended to a friend who owned a small legitimate cabaret that I should work there. A week later, the owner called me. He needed a last-minute replacement because his comic was sick. It was Labor Day, and he had few options. I had never done a comedy act, but I figured I'd at least get laughs doing Lady Fonberg of Nottingham. So I took the job, and the singer on the bill was a struggling unknown. We became good friends, and Barbara and I were so poor, we shared a pair of stockings. One of us would get a rush of a run on stage every performance, and then we'd run off and switch stockings. And Barbara was always worried about her figure, and to me it was perfect. So I would bring her bunches of carrots, and that's what we would eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I had no idea that there was such a thing as carotene poisoning. She was so insecure then. She'd ask me, which song should I sing first? Years later, she called me from a phone booth to ask which song to sing first at the White House. I said, I'm not telling you anymore, Barbara. I told you 10 years ago what to sing. You didn't listen. And look where it got you. A few years ago, when I saw Barbara perform at the Staples Center in L.A., she introduced her celebrity friends in the audience. She said, is Elizabeth Taylor here? Elizabeth stood up and bowed very demurely. She said, is Renee Taylor here? Yeah! I knew it would make her laugh. Barbara said, do some of your Lady Feinberg of Nottingham routine. I was handed a mic and I started doing my routine, and Barbara joined in and finished it with me. This was taken afterward in her dressing room. It says, Dear Renee, it seems like yesterday and a lifetime ago. Love, Barbara. One day, back in 1960, after Lee's class, his secretary told me that as much as Lee liked me, I'd have to stop attending class unless I started to pay him. I was in a panic, desperate for a job. I heard that the producer of The Tonight Show was auditioning singers, so I rushed over there. When I was about to audition, I realized I forgot my piano accompaniment sheet. I was in a panic. I started babbling extemporaneously to the producer. Oh, you have a piano player, but I don't sing to piano. I sing to tambourine or a xylophone or a marimba, but I see you don't have those instruments. So I could sing a cappella which means without music in Italian or Greek or whatever. But you don't have to worry because I came in second to a one-armed accordion player in the original amateur hour. I was so animated that my zipper broke, and I said, I have my zipper repair kit with me, which I demonstrated also in Macy's sub-basement, and I demonstrated it for them. Fixes all your zippers, and there's no sewing. Slip it in, snap it on, and pull it up. The producer jumped up and said, "You're hired." I said, "You haven't heard me sing." I said, "Singers are a dime a dozen. Talkers are hard to find. You're on tonight." Oh, my God. Jack Paar was the host of The Tonight Show then, and he was super popular. This was such a break, but I was paralyzed with fear. I was so nervous, I cut myself shaving my legs. And then I was given a glass of water in the wings before I went on, and I spilled it all over myself. On camera, I started telling Jack Paar about the Okinawa seaweed diet that I was on. And Jack Paar said to me, "Your legs are bleeding. And your dress is all wet." I said, "Act casual." He leaned over and said to me, "You have a job with me once a week for as long as you like." And the next day, I got a call from Goody Ace, the head writer of a hit primetime show, The Kraft Music Hall, starring Perry Como. And Goody hired me at $750 a week, which was a lot of money that time. And I would be doing comedy with the biggest names in show business. My world started spinning faster and faster. And one of the famous Como show guest stars was Betty Grable. I ran up to her like a crazed fan. "Miss Grable, I went to all your movies when I was a little girl. I saw them 3-4 times. I know all your songs from all your movies. Pack up your drums and go to Acapulco. Moon over Miami. Your very life will begin the very moment you're in Argentina." Betty Grable said, "That's nice." And she slowly backed away from me. On another show, Orson Welles appeared. He was very flattering, and he asked me to join him for dinner. I told him I've already eaten dinner. He said, "That's okay, so have I." But I'd like to have a snack after dinner. And I joined him for Orson Welles' after-dinner snack. One night, Jerry Lewis was a guest on the Jack Paar show. He told me, "Lady, you're so talented. If you're ever in California, look me up." So I flew there the next day. I said, "Okay, I'm here." He said, "There's no part for you in the picture I'm doing now." I said, "Hey, you wrote the script. I've seen all your movies. Just tear out 5 pages and write in 5 new ones." He said, "Here." He handed me the script. Tear out 5 pages. And he did a rewrite. He wrote me a part, and I got my first Hollywood movie with him, The Errand Boy.
Now, when you get to the wardrobe department, you ask for the head, Mr. Babe Wozenthal.
Who?
Babe Wozenthal. He's the head of the wardrobe.
Ben Van Vincent.
No.
Basin.
Well, it's hard. I'll help you. Say, Babe.
Babe.
Woes.
Was.
Ent.
All.
All. Babe Wozenthal.
Ben Vincent.
No. Well, forget it. Just follow me.
While I was doing the movie, I was invited to dinner at the Playboy Mansion. Hugh Hefner greeted me at the door in red silk pajamas. I said, "Oh, are you sick? 'Cause I could come back another time." At the end of an elaborate meal, I was offered cocaine. I said, "No, thanks. I couldn't eat another thing." Then I went into a big screening room with a lot of famous movie stars, and the lights went down and a porno film came on the screen. I was so embarrassed because I was there by myself. I stood up and said, "Oh, I have already seen this a couple of times." So after years of being a hat-in-hand show business schlepper, in the space of a couple of months, I was a success on the Tonight and Perry Como show. I was appearing in a major movie, and I was hobnobbing with celebrities like Orson Welles and Hugh Hefner. I even had my own fan club. It was started by television viewers. I offered them my new fans T-shirts. I told them I got a good buy because they were irregulars. I should have felt like a success, but I had more anxiety than when I was on my ass. Wasn't there a price for success? At some point, I was bound to fail, and then what? My haven was always Lee's class. It was such a warm, safe place. I sometimes would close my eyes and think I was dreaming. Once I opened them, and Marilyn Monroe was on stage doing an exercise, a sense memory of the wind, and she gave herself so totally to the experience. When the exercise was over, the whole class spontaneously stood and gave her a thunderous ovation. This picture is her being hugged by Lee's daughter, Susan Strasberg. It was taken right after that exercise. After class, I walked down the street with her. "I tried the grape diet, Marilyn. It didn't do anything for me." She said, "Really? Huh. Try hot water and lemon one day, and then do hot water and orange juice. I'm on my third day." "Oh, Marilyn, I never knew who I wanted to be until I just wanted to watch you all the time in class. I want to be you. I'm making $750 a week. I have this awful fear of giving up control. But I saw from your exercise in class that you have to lose control to find yourself. You are the wind, Marilyn. That's why I want to be you." She laughed. "When you become me, sweetie, tell me what it's like. I always wanted to be Irene Dunn." The feelings of dread kept intensifying. My good fortune couldn't last. Like the princess in Rumpelstiltskin, someone would claim and come and say it belonged to them. I really became obsessed with staying thin. My $750 a week stopped being a lot of money. I went on the Vogue magazine champagne diet. According to that diet, cheap champagne has more calories, so the champagne must be. I lost 12 pounds, but I had a $200 a day Cristal habit. I finally broke it when I began dating Rick. I met him at a party in the East Village. He was the perfect bohemian, part-time abstract expressionist, part-time Shakespearean actor. And Rick was so slim. At his suggestion, I dumped the Cristal diet. I went on the perfect bohemian part-time abstract expressionistic part-time Shakespearean actor diet. On the Como show, Goody Ellis wrote an opening plastic surgeon sketch for me and that week's guest star, Jimmy Durante. Goody also wrote a takeoff of Hamlet. I would be Ophelia, and Jimmy Durante would be Polonius. I talked Goody into hiring Rick to play Hamlet. I planned a party at a hotel suite after the show, and I invited my parents to the taping and my friend Marilyn from class, never dreaming that she would come. She wore a babushka and dark glasses, but everyone in the audience knew it was her, and the air was filled with excitement. Jimmy and I got huge laughs with the plastic surgery sketch, and then the nightmare began. Rick showed up for the Hamlet sketch totally stoned, and he was fired. The party afterward, like the rest of the show, was surreal. Marilyn Monroe sat on the bed explaining Stanislavski to Jimmy Durante. And Jimmy Durante was explaining to Marilyn how to do "I'm mortified." My father was sprawled out on the couch and fell asleep. My mother went up to Perry Como and said, "Perry, Frida, you look green. Bananas will help your urine flow." Suddenly the door opened and Rick appeared in an ankle-length coat. He took it off and was stark naked. I thought it was the worst thing that could have possibly happened to me. It wasn't even close. My mother noticed that my father was breathing heavy and funny. It turned out he wasn't sleeping. He'd had a heart attack. I rode with him in the ambulance to the hospital, and my mother was catatonic. I held his hand and said, "Daddy, I love you. Tell me that you love me too." My father lifted his head as if he was going to say something, but he just stared at me like he'd forgotten the question. And then he laid his head on my arm, and the ex-Hollywood cowboy Charlie Wexler was gone. I sobbed, "Daddy, what were you going to say?" Afterward, whenever the phone rang, I'd think maybe that was him calling to give me his answer. The Perry Como show went off the air, and I was still doing The Tonight Show. And I realized Lee Strasberg, though he said I was very funny on the Como show, had never commented on my Tonight Show appearance. I decided to ask him if he had ever watched me there. He nodded. I said, "So, what did you think?" He said, "I'm not sure what to think. You just tell stories about your life that make you look silly." "Yeah, but I'm getting a lot of recognition from those appearances." "Renee, I think you have to decide if you want to be an artist or if you just want to be famous." "Well, can I be famous and an artist?" Lee said yes, but not in that order. Lee's words stunned me. I realized I was addicted not only to food, but to fame. I began seeing psychiatrists. I talked and talked, and they just listened and listened. And with my latest one, I cried my eyes out for an hour. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am. I want to be famous. I don't know as what. As a serious actress, as a television comedian. What am I? And then I noticed that the psychiatrist was snoring. So I stormed out. I vowed up. I'd never see a psychiatrist again. And then I passed an office near the elevator. Dr. Maria Bernstein. I said to myself, what the hell? I've never been to a psychiatrist that's a woman before. I'll give it one last try. It turned out Maria Bernstein was 80 years old, and she was a refugee from Nazi Germany, so she had no patience for show business sob stories. When I told her every time I tasted success, something would sabotage it, she stood up and yelled at me, "Yes, and that something is you. Stop it." I thought of the old Henny Youngman joke. A patient says to the doctor, "Doctor, it hurts when I do that." And the doctor says, "Don't do that." She helped me get off amphetamines, but I was a 3-pack-a-day cigarette smoker, and she wanted me to give that up too. I said, "Can't you just give me something to help me cut down? I can't just quit cold turkey." She said, "Sure. Take the other end of your lit cigarette and insert it up your erectum." She made me see I was a fool to just want to cut down, so I quit cold turkey. And the way I approached my career also began to change. I decided that I would be an artist first. I was hired for an improvisational review, The 30 Air, directed by Elaine May. And with her encouragement, I wrote satirical, sophisticated scenes that I performed. And one night, Lenny Bruce saw the show and asked me for a date. I was surprised how shy he was. I went out with Lenny several times, and he was very into natural vitamins and fresh juices. And whenever I was with him, I was on the same health regime as him. And in retrospect, I realized he thought he was countering all the drugs that he took. I began to have strong feelings for Lenny. He asked me to be a character witness at his profanity trial. But before I was called, he OD'd on heroin. I was devastated. Then a Welsh actor who was on Broadway in the play Luther came to the show, and during one of my scenes, he kept yelling, "Bloody marvelous!" Afterwards, he told me I had won his heart and we were going to be married. "Great," I said. "What's your name?" We made the rounds of all the saloons, and he drank Irish whiskey and recited bawdy poetry to me. And because I wanted to look elegant and ladylike, I needed a new diet, and he suggested one that was the rage of England, the Queen Mother's Royal Diet. I said, "Gee, that diet has a lot to eat, and the Queen Mother looks awfully heavy to me." He said, "You should have seen her before she went on that diet." My bawdy Welshman had to go back to London. I asked Elaine, "Please let me out of the show so I can join him and get married." Elaine said, "If he loves you, he'll wait for you." And he wrote me, "I'll come back to America as soon as I can. I can't live without you, darling girl." And then after 3 torturous months, I called him. It was 5 a.m. London time, and a sleepy woman answered the phone. It was Mrs. Bawdy Welshman. And to get over him, I went on Renee's Scorned Lovers diet. I started dating loads of men because there was safety in numbers, and none of them worked out. One day, I was coming out of a vegetable juice place on Madison Avenue called I Love Juicy. I heard a car horn and a woman's voice call out, "Sweetie!" "Hi, Marilyn," I said, crossing the street. "How are you feeling?" I noticed her eyes were all red, her hair was disheveled, she wore an old bathrobe and a sweater, and her dungarees were all frayed around the bottom. "I'm here to find out how I'm feeling," she said. I have an appointment with the iridologist. I'm just killing time. What's an iridologist? I asked. Oh, he can look in your eyes and tell you the missing vitamins that'll correct your mineral imbalance. Maybe that's why my life is so out of balance. Really? Your figure looks great, Marilyn. What diet are you on? She said, I haven't been dieting. I have this feeling that when I'm hungry, it's not necessarily for food. How's your love life? Oh, not too good, I confessed. Marilyn laughed. Well, if you do find Mr. Right, let me know if he has a nice friend for me. 2 months later, my friend Marilyn from class was dead. When I heard the terrible news, I thought maybe if I could have found somebody nice for her, I could have saved her. And I suddenly realized how much I needed love in my life. I needed to save myself. I had an emergency session with Dr. Bernstein. Why can't I find a guy that I can have a healthy, normal relationship with? She said, why don't you try dating a healthy, normal guy? Every man you have problems with is either a married womanizer, a drug addict, or a transvestite who just wants you for your clothes. The truth of what Maria said seemed so obvious, and I got into the best shape of my life. And soon after that, my manager at the time, Buddy Allen, said, I'd like to introduce you to a writer that I think you're going to have a real comedy rapport with. I shook Joe Bologna's hand. I looked into his eyes. I said to myself, this is the man I'm going to marry. And later, Joe told me he looked into my eyes and thought to himself, this woman's looking at me very funny. We began a writing partnership, and Joe seemed honest and sensitive. He'd been an altar boy. He had even considered becoming a priest, and he was a United States Marine. I loved his range of expression. On our first date, Joe took me to his favorite Italian restaurant. I loved how he savored the food. He got a little high on wine. He turned to me and moaned passionately, Renee, I could have sex with this clam sauce. We talked all night. I told Joe about my history of choosing men who we couldn't work out with, and he told me that his history with women was he chose ones who always loved him more than he loved them. And he seemed so sad about it. He took me home and we shook hands, and I said to him, I'm not going to see you again unless you're going to be serious. He said, serious? I don't even know you. I said, yes, but I want to know that when you do know me, and you know that you love me, in the knowing you love me, you know you're going to be serious and loving. He looked at me like I was a Martian and backed away slowly. The next day, I told Elaine what I had said to Joe. Elaine said, are you crazy on the first date? You're going to scare him away. Oh, I didn't hear from Joe for 3 days, and I was afraid I had scared him away. On the fourth morning, Joe called and said, you know, I'm sick of just being the lovey. I'd like to try to be the lover. Joe took me home to meet his Italian family in Brooklyn. His mother, Josie, was a fabulous cook. I had been watching my weight. I felt if I let my figure go, I might lose Joe because he was making a Herculean effort to be a monogamous male. But if I didn't eat what his mother cooked, I would lose his mother. So I ate and I ate and I ate, and the food was so good I couldn't stop. His mother nodded in approval, and Joe's father, Tony, said, I see you got a big appetite. Do you cook? 'Cause I don't know many Jewish women, but I heard they can't cook worth crap. Oh, I'm a great cook, I lied. His mother said, oh, what do you cook? I said, oh, well, I cook a fabulous gefilte fish. She said, I never ate gefilte fish. How do you make it? I said, oh, well, you go to the market, you get a big fish, and you gefilte it. It's very messy. You have to keep hitting it on the head with a hammer. Joe laughed so hard he knocked over his wine. And that night, he asked me to marry him. And Elaine May gave us the engagement party. And 6 months from the day we met, Joe and I were married. Everyone tells me that the wedding was great fun. I wouldn't know because I was in a fog. After the reception, we flew to St. Croix for our honeymoon, and the fog continued right through our romantic candlelit meal and the tender lovemaking afterward, and it lasted until the middle of the night. I woke up in a total panic, feeling that I was in grave danger. I jumped out of bed. I ran into the living room. I started throwing things in my honeymoon suitcase. And Joe came running in the room and he said, it's 3 a.m. Why are you packing? I said, I tried, Joe, but this marriage is not working. All this time, I've been faking it. You've been faking your feelings? No, my weight. This isn't me. I'm a very fat person. Sure, I'm thin now, but I didn't tell you I lost 30 pounds before I met you because I wanted you to think I was thin. But I've never been thin, and I'll never be thin, and even when I am, I'm not. You're going to find out about me sooner or later. You know what I was going to do? I was going to call room service and say, send up 5 bananas. And if they said they didn't have them, I would have said, well, go get them. Because I'm starving. That was no honeymoon dinner we had tonight. Oysters Rockefeller, chicken Kiev, floating island. Where was the apple turnover, the chocolate brownies? I thought when I found my true love, I would lose my appetite. But I've never been so hungry. I guess you're not him, because I look at you, and all I think of chicken cacciatore. You see, when we met, I was on the Pisces fish diet, sardines, anchovies, crab legs, 600 calories a day. And when we caught it, I didn't overeat because I was blinded by love. But what's going to happen when we have an argument? I'll sneak out behind your back and I'll have a hot fudge sundae. Or maybe I'll have a 22-ounce steak with cream spinach and a bottle of chilled white wine. Except you don't have white wine with steak. You have red. And don't you get it? What am I going to have with you? Happiness day in, day out? That would get on my nerves. You think I'm the crazy one. Well, you're the crazy one, the way you eat only 3 meals a day. You think my behavior's going to change because of being happy? It's going to get worse. I guarantee. If I get depressed, I'll eat lobster diavolo and chili con carne. And if we have bad luck, I'll have Peking duck and Swedish meatballs. And if we have good news, I eat chocolate mousse and banana cream pie and Indian pudding. Suddenly, Joe grabbed me and by the shoulders and started shaking me. Stop it! You're making me hungry. Then he held me in his arms and I cried like a baby. And that night I had a dream. I was asleep and my phone rang. It was my father. He said, Renee, there's no gambling up here. I've had time to think, and I'm glad you're my daughter, and I love you. As for Joe and me, we must have been doing something right because we've been married and working together for 48 years. Although Joe likes to say they did a recent study at Harvard, and they ascertained that the first 48 years of marriage are the easiest. One of the secrets of our staying together for so long is when we run out of marriage counselors, we turn to divine help and we get married again. We have a big party. We renew our wedding vows in a different religion each time. Because you never know from which direction divine help is going to come. And over the years, Joe and I have had our marriage blessed by many different holy people, like Pope John Paul II, the 14th Dalai Lama, Swami Muktananda, the founder of Siddha Yoga, Lou Weiss, the chairman of the William Morris Talent Agency. As writers and performers, Joe and I have had our share of successes and failures. We won some awards we weren't expecting, and we didn't get others we thought we should have gotten. But all in all, it's been very exciting because we love working together.
Try kissing me over here. No, right here. That's the erogenous zone.
Which, the neck part or the finger part?
Right there. Oh, that's good. That's good. What are you doing?
Biting your ear.
No, that doesn't do anything. No, try kissing me over there. Okay, now call me names.
Like what?
You know.
You moron.
No. Curse me. Come on, curse me.
Angula Sordida.
What's that?
Your sister's ass.
Okay, try that. Kiss me and try that.
Angula Sordida! Angula Sordida! Angula Sordida!
No, forget it. It doesn't do anything.
One of the most fun things that we were able to do was to get my mother a little part and made for each other. She was really good. And when she watched herself in the rushes, I had never seen her so happy. 3 weeks before Made for Each Other was released, Frida Wexler died of a heart attack. On her tombstone, I engraved a big dressing room star. And I had another dream. Up in heaven, my mother saw Marilyn Monroe, went up to her and said, Marilyn, it's good to see you. I think I have found somebody nice for you up here. As for my guarantees to Joe, I made good on all of them. Whenever there were successes to celebrate or setbacks to mourn, I went on and off some of the most famous and infamous diets in the last half century, plus a few original ones. When I got pregnant, I went on Renee's Pregnant Woman's Diet. I put on over 50 pounds. I kept telling everybody, oh, it's going to be a really big baby. I was so embarrassed when our son Gabriel was born. He weighed only 5 pounds. We moved to California because our work took us there, and I was petrified. I told Joe, you know what they do to fat women in California? They stone them. I felt I better do something about my body fast, but I said to myself, for once in my life, I'm going to exercise to lose weight. So the next day, I rushed to my old friend from Lee Strasberg, Jane Fonda. She had her exercise school to lose weight. And I looked in the window. I saw the bodies of all the movie stars working out to lose weight. I ran home and told Joe, I have to lose weight before I even go to lose weight. Nothing could induce me to keep my figure more than getting a great part. I was hired for the role of Fran Drescher's mother on The Nanny. But I didn't have many lines, and to make my character funny, I started eating off everyone's plates, and the writers loved it, but it didn't help my dieting.
Are you sure we can't offer you something?
Oh, no, thank you. I had a yo play this morning around 10:30. Oh, such a big potato for such a little girl. Look at the time. They must be having a ball. I'm going to go in the kitchen. I need a meat to wash this down with. Well, if no one is going to have any more of the cake, I'm going to put it away.
Oh, that's glad.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Smart, Yoma. Very smart.
Sweetheart, nothing is ever as bad as it seems.
Ma, it's over. We split up.
No, don't say that!
It's true. It was the worst fight we ever had.
Oh, my God, I'm having palpitations. Quick, get me my medicine.
In all my years of experience, I came up with a lot of can't-miss diet tricks on how to stay thin. For instance, eat what a thin person practically anorexic eats. I once sat down next to Princess Lee Radswell, Jackie Kennedy's sister. I had never seen a woman so fatless. I decided to eat only what she ate. She got up 3 times to go to the buffet table. The first time, she ate 2 peas. The second time, 2 string beans. The third time, 3 baby carrots. I said to her, uh-oh, overeating again? The point is, there are no can't-miss diet tricks. Over my lifetime, I have lost and put on over 1,000 pounds. But I don't judge myself because Joe says the laws of physics say all matter has to be in balance. So if I put on weight, it's not my fault. It means that somebody in China has gone on a diet. Well, that's pretty much the story I wanted to tell, except I've gained some insight. It comes with reaching my age. I am a senior citizen and an actress in her late 30s. And I have found out that the most effective diet for me is to feel my feelings very deeply. Because when I'm hungry, as someone once told me, it's not always for food. So right now, I'm on a diet that is really a lot of fun. I am a vegan, except once in a while when I have to have a steak. And then I get a lean piece of meat, and I add a cup of love, a bowl of joy, a pinch of kindness, and I can filter it. Well, a girl, she really got to eat. And a girl, she should eat right. 5 will get you 10. I'm gonna feed myself right tonight. I don't want fish cakes and rye bread. You heard what I said. Waiter, please, make mine fried. I want the frim-fram sauce with the asenfei with shafafa on the side. Thank you for sharing my life on a diet. Oh, this was so great. Thank you. Thank you. I really felt your love. Thank you. You made me cry, too. You were so responsive. You made me cry. I said, oh, I didn't know it was sad. But you know what? I want you to share joy with me. I want you to meet the co-author and the director and my boyfriend for 48 years, Joe Bologna. Come on up, Joey. Joey.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just want to tell you, it's a great joy to be able to co-write this play, and also, you know, a good part of it, co-live it. But I'm most proud of my work as a director, because of the performance I've got. Now, I'm going to give you my main directorial secret. If you promise I'll go no further than this room. Okay. I'm sleeping with the star. Anyway,
thank you.
We have an announcement from Cheryl.
Today is her birthday.
My birthday?
She forgets.
Everybody can sing happy birthday. And their son happens to be here today, Gabriel.
Oh, yeah, my son. The 5-pound baby boy who's now, he's from years old. Hey, let's go in the lobby. We'll all take a group picture. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. Happy birthday, dear Renee. Aw. Happy birthday to you. Oh, I hope it's low calories. No. The filter. Okay, I'll see you in the lobby. Thank you.